Thank you very much indeed, Dáil, and I'd like to, first of all, welcome the fact that this bill has been brought to the House. And I suppose it's only appropriate that I should acknowledge the sentiments behind it, because I support most of what has been said by the proposers, as does the government. And I acknowledge, I think it's only fair also to say that the role that Deputy Ellis has played in pioneering this particular piece of legislation and the sentiments behind it for a long period of time. And I share those sentiments, and I support what he's trying to do fully. And the passion with which you spoke, and which I spoke to last night, is something which isn't going to be lost on anyone who's involved in promoting this legislation, and certainly in trying to outlaw the activities which you've outlined. And I acknowledge also what Deputy Munster said. Sure, this is a real problem. It's a problem which is urgent and has got to be addressed. And it's something which I have identified and others have identified as something which has got to be tackled by the government. Having said that, I don't retreat in the face of anybody who says that we have avoided difficulties on issues of road safety and safety of lives. It's a top priority of mine, at the department, and anyone involved in the transport portfolio, that road safety, the saving of lives, must come first. That's what it's all about. And indeed, for Deputy Munster to say that we haven't been addressing those issues adequately, I think is unfair. She'll know full well that the road safety legislation, which thankfully Sinn Féin supported, and we're very grateful for that, has, I think, changed the atmosphere, and I hope will save more lives as they do. And will also, I hope that it's reflected the fact that road deaths were down last year because it's a government priority, and the RSA has been running some very effective campaigns. And it's too early to say whether they'll be down this year again. But I hope that they will be down, and that as of today they are down 6. It's not adequate. Nothing is adequate. But the problem is being addressed, and being addressed with the same passion which Deputy Ellis addressed this issue. And I support you. The only problem we have here is, and maybe this should have been addressed earlier, because I think it's been in the lottery, if I'm not mistaken, your bill for a long time, is the way of addressing it. And I'm quite happy to concede that you look on these things differently when you get into government, because you have to look at the legalities of things rather than the actual objectives and the route which you're going to take there. And we're on the same journey, but we suggest that this is the wrong route because of the difficulties which it will provide by the wording which you've actually used in this bill. And we think that, having studied it, it's probably not a matter for road traffic legislation, unfortunately, but it's something which is obviously being addressed elsewhere. In the light of the serious injuries, but I acknowledge, and I want to make it absolutely clear, I acknowledge Sinn Féin's contribution here. And if I can do anything to arrange a meeting of minds on this in the near future, I'll do so. I'm happy to do that, because we want to pursue the same objectives, and we want to see lives saved and any scourge of illegal activities by the quads and scramblers. Sure, let's address them. In the light of the serious injuries received by a man caused by a scrambler bike in a park in North Dublin in June of this year, and because of other incidents concerning such vehicles, it's critically important that we all redouble our efforts, including in the examination of the powers available to Garda Síochána under public order and criminal justice legislation. However, I must point out that it's not appropriate to tackle this issue by changing the definition of public place in the Road Traffic Acts or in part of the Road Traffic Act. The private member's bill seeks to expand the definition of public place for the purposes of Section 41 of the Road Traffic Act 1994 to include any outdoor area, including public parks, to which members of the public have or are permitted to have access, whether as of right or as of trespasser or otherwise, and which is used for public recreational purposes. The definition of a public place is central to the application of road traffic legislation, particularly in the area of intoxicated driving. An amendment such as that proposed puts that definition at significant risk. That is very serious. The consequences of that would be very, very serious indeed. The definition of a public place in current road traffic legislation has previously been the subject of many legal challenges to intoxicated driving prosecutions. This has resulted in the current legal definition being robust and widely accepted in terms of the enforcement and subsequent prosecution of road traffic legislation. Such enforcement has been a significant contributor to saving lives on our roads, with 2017 being the year with the lowest number of fatalities since the records began. I believe that rather than risk increasing road traffic fatalities and undermining the current acceptance of the definition of a public place in road traffic legislation, the issue of inappropriate use of scramblers in publicly owned parks or spaces would be more properly dealt with under public order and criminal justice legislation. In this regard, earlier this year, the Department of Justice and Equality convened meetings with key government departments and agencies in relation to the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes, and a multi-agency task force was established, including representatives of Garda Síochána and the local authorities and other bodies concerned. As part of the work of the interagency group, the Department of Justice and Equality is currently reviewing criminal justice and public order legislation to ensure that Garda Síochána possess the necessary powers to deal with misuse of scramblers and quad bikes in public places other than those covered in the Road Traffic Act. The Department of Justice has sought advice from the Office of the AG as regards quads and scrambler bikes, in particular concerning a number of provisions contained in public order legislation. This will determine whether any legislative amendments are necessary to criminal justice and public order legislation to assist in curbing antisocial activity insofar as scramblers and quad bikes are concerned. For example, Section 3 of the Criminal Justice Public Order Act 1994, as amended, includes a definition of the term public place, which includes all areas of a public local authority park. Legal advice has been sought from the Office of the AG as to the powers of Garda Síochána in relation to the use of scramblers and quad bikes in these areas under criminal justice legislation. These include search and seizure of scramblers and quad bikes by Garda Síochána with a view to identifying potential legislative solutions. I believe that the public safety and public order concerns relating to scramblers and quad bikes are best addressed through the multi-pronged response being pursued by the interagency group, which includes that review of appropriate criminal justice and public order legislation, education and awareness raising measures, engagement at local community level, etc. It was agreed by this task force that the issue must be tackled by a number of means, including consideration of enforcement measures, education and awareness-raising measures, relevant legislation if necessary, and the potential provision of designated facilities where such vehicles could be used in a safe environment. At its most recent meeting, it was agreed that road safety officers from the local authorities would organise a campaign urging parents not to buy scramblers or quad bikes as Christmas presents for minors, and the Road Safety Authority will also be running a similar campaign in the run-up to Christmas. The local authorities will log complaints and incidents regarding scramblers and quad bikes in open spaces and parks during a particular week in the latter part of 2018 in order to attempt to gauge the scale of the issue. The task force is due to meet again next month to review progress and will engage again with local authorities and Garda Síochána in order to fully understand the difficulties encountered in dealing with this type of antisocial behaviour and to learn from community policing successes in this area. The Department of Justice and Equality is also consulting further with local authorities in the context of many examples of positive engagement fostered by local authorities with local communities, as a number of initiatives and projects are of potential interest insofar as the misuse of scramblers and quad bikes are concerned. I would like to reiterate again that I am fully behind the excellent intentions of the movers of this bill, but I do not believe that it is appropriate to tackle this issue by changing the definition of public place in the Road Traffic Act. I see a solution to this issue coming from the work of the interagency group chaired by the Department of Justice and Equality and established earlier this year to deal with the misuse of quads and scramblers, and from the legal advice which the Department of Justice and Equality receives from the Office of the AG regarding these matters. So, just in summary, I'll just say this. Your intentions are correct. We support you. We just feel that the risks attached to changing the definition, the approach, are very, very high, and the dangers of undermining other legislation to which Deputy Munster referred. There was a Freudian slip, and I hope it never comes to pass. But those risks are not worth taking. The consequences of passing that bill, but undermining other legislation would, I think, be unforgivable. So we are addressing, and as a matter of urgency, other ways of ensuring that the measures which you're proposing and the direction which you're going is secured.